First of all, let's go over live to College Green, just outside the Houses of Parliament, on a cold and grey day. He's braving the elements. It's Shadow Justice Minister Kieran Mullan. Hello, Kieran.
Good morning, Kevin, and thanks for having me. It's not too cold, actually. It might look it, but it's not too bad.
Excellent. Good. Now, let me ask you first, Kieran. I want to talk to you about the China spy files, which extraordinarily, ahead of Richard Hermer and Darren Jones from the government appearing before the committee, the joint committee, in literally about 3/4 of an hour, we learned that the government is refusing to publish the China spy files. Make of that what you will, but we'll talk about it in just a second. I just wanted to ask you, what do you make of Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, today, crowing about what a fantastic job they've done deporting Hadush Kebatu, the sex offender, the child sex offender, the Ethiopian who was so ludicrously and farcically released from jail, mistakenly last Friday, captured on Sunday, and now they're going, oh, it's brilliant, we've deported him. She said if you come to this country and commit crimes, you will be removed. That's simply not true, and the only reason they've managed to get rid of him so easily is we do have a returns agreement with Ethiopia. The truth is, what people around the country will be asking, if you could do it so easily with this guy, because he's in the limelight right now, why can't you do it with thousands of other asylum seeker lawbreakers?
I think you're absolutely right, Kevin. Now, of course, I'm sure the victims of his vile crimes will be delighted to see that he's gone home. They can rest easy knowing that he's not here anymore. But let's be clear, he volunteered to leave the country. I suspect if he'd chosen at the last minute to lodge some kind of human rights claim, that he would still be here right now. And there's two things that I'd like to say about that. The first is that he shouldn't have been here in the first place, and that until Keir Starmer grows a backbone and takes us out of the ECHR and reforms our human rights law, people who don't want to go voluntary will carry on frustrating their deportation, and I think that's totally wrong for the British taxpayer and for the people that want to see people who are undocumented, about whom we know very little, staying in this country. And then the second thing I would say is that the Home Secretary described this man as a vile child sex offender and that she was glad he was off our streets. At the very same time, today, the Labour government is going to ask Labour MPs to vote through a bill that will actually allow offenders just like him, foreign national or otherwise, who have committed sexual assaults against women and girls, just like the offences he committed, to spend less time in jail. 2/3 of them approximately will get out of jail easier onto our streets. I think it's a real betrayal of victims, and that we have a Home Secretary talking out of both sides of the issue, saying on the one hand she doesn't want this person on our streets, on the other hand changing prison time so that people just like him are actually back on our streets much sooner than they otherwise would be.
Yeah, when she says in her boasting tweet this morning, if you come to this country and commit crimes, you will be removed, that is simply not true. Frankly, that is another lie from this Labour government. But let's talk about what's going to happen in about half an hour, just over half an hour. Darren Jones, who I think is the eyes and ears of the Prime Minister on earth, and Richard Hermer, the Prime Minister's human rights lawyer mate, who's vaulted into the lofty position of Attorney General, doing a terrible job, I might say. They will go before the committee to discuss the China spy trial, and the government, we've just learned, is refusing to release the China spy files. In other words, they are refusing to give the nation the truth about what happened with this trial of two alleged spies, British spies, who were supplying allegedly information to China. They were supposed to go into the dock. The trial collapsed because the government, or the government's national security, deputy national security advisor, Matthew Collins, refused or stopped the CPS from categorising China as an enemy of this state. The government seems to say that isn't the case, but it won't show us the files. What do we make of that?
I think the only thing that people will reasonably conclude is this is yet another example that Keir Starmer doesn't have the backbone to deliver for this country. He doesn't have the backbone to stand up to China. I think it's quite clear from the evidence we heard yesterday from the CPS and the top barrister that they had working on this case that the government have allowed this prosecution to collapse. All they needed was to say that China was a current active national security threat, which is quite clearly the case. And our government previously stated a number of occasions at the dispatch box in official government documents that China was a threat to national security. This government could have done that. And we have an Attorney General who seems to find himself on the wrong side of case after case when it comes to representing the interests of the British state, who's now in the British state, and how are we really supposed to believe that there was nothing they could do to ensure this case proceeded? What the government are deliberately doing is confusing a situation where you might have a witness to events, someone that's seen a crime on the street, whom of course shouldn't be interfered with in any way, shape or form in describing what they saw. This is not that sort of case. This is a case where someone is giving evidence on behalf of the entire government, and we're really supposed to believe that all on his own, the Deputy National Security Advisor, purely because he chose not to, didn't want to describe China as a current national security threat. I think it's quite clear that that is totally unbelievable, uncredible, and until the government are completely transparent about all the correspondence, all the exchanges of letters and discussions, they're very, very careful in what they say at the dispatch box. They almost never answer some of the very many important direct questions that we put to them as the opposition. Until they start doing that, this is going to rumble and make absolutely clear to the people that they don't have a government that's doing everything it takes to protect their national security.
Yeah, and Kieran, incredibly, I think it was last PMQs, last Wednesday, when Kemi Badenoch, a very good performance by her, put the Prime Minister on the rack and said exactly what you mean to tell us that the entire government policy in terms of China's potential national security threat has been decided by a rather lowly civil servant. Do you remember what he said, Keir Starmer, in the House of Commons? He turned to her and said his one-word answer: yes. If that's the truth, we're in bigger trouble than I thought, but I don't think it is the truth.
Yes.
I think he should be on
absolutely.
He lied to the House of Commons. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I think there's a serious case for the fact that he's misled the House of Commons. But as you said, even if it is true, well, that is also a disgrace.
Even worse.
Now, of course, the government can't. Yes, the government can't put words into the mouth of somebody. But as I've explained, this person was articulating the position of government. That isn't something that one person on their own should be responsible for, and that there can't be further discussions. What the Attorney General should have been doing is saying to the CPS, where is the gap? What can we do to ensure that this government provides evidence that it can appropriately provide, not make something up, not say something that isn't true, but things that are on the record about the fact that, of course, China is a current national security threat. That is obvious to everybody and would have been obvious to a jury, but of course this government wasn't willing to do what it takes to ensure that case got to trial.
Well said, Kieran. Get back into that building behind you and check out what's going to happen at this committee. It's going to be an interesting day. That's Kieran Mullan, Shadow Justice Minister. Let's go straight